You're watching Life Report, pro-life talk, real-world answers. Life Report trains people to more effectively defend their pro-life beliefs while honestly examining the strengths and weaknesses of both sides. We're the show other pro-lifers may have warned you about. This is Life Report.
Welcome to Life Report. I am your host, Josh Brahm. We've got our regulars here with us today, Liz Goddard and Andrew Nemi. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Today's topic. Just let it go. Just moving on. Focus.
Okay.
Today's topic.
Time is all.
The Relay for Life. Relay for Life is the fundraiser that the American Cancer Society uses. So Right to Life, we have the Walk for Life and the Goal for Life and a couple of other fundraisers that support, in the end, Right to Life of Central California, which helps produce this show and the work we do in colleges and 40 Days for Life and all the different things that we do. American Cancer Society, which is one of many organizations that are funding research to attempt to cure cancer. Their main fundraiser is the Relay for Life, and they go on all over the country, mainly around this time of year.
I think it's one of the largest fundraisers in the United States.
I would think so, or at least one of the most participated in.
Right.
I mean, I mean, they've got a lot. It's really organized. I've been on the website. The way they've got all kinds of materials for the people that want to get involved. They help them. Here's how you do your own, Relay for Life in your city. Who here has a family member that's been affected by cancer?
I mean, I've had relatives and stuff that have,
You said before the show, you said 10 or so?
Well,
Is that what
I
you
mean,
said?
through distant
Distant
fingers in
relatives.
different
My
long branches of my family.
My grandmother died of cancer, died her third battle of cancer, and my wife's aunt just died of cancer, leaving behind several kids. I mean, she was only 50-something or other. I mean, so I know I've been affected by cancer. I know you have.
And even if, like me, cancer doesn't run in my family, at least in my direct family, but, my friends, parents and grandparents, close church members, people that I know and I'm close with, there's no one who's not affected by cancer.
It's like everybody you talk to, they have been touched by cancer in some way. And so I want to start off by saying I think we should be trying to cure cancer. I think that is a very good goal.
That's the pro-life thing to do.
I think that's a great goal. I think that's something that's worth supporting and financially donating to. I think you want it, as always, you're always trying to figure out what is the best way to fund that money. I believe, my personal belief, is that pro-lifers ought to think twice before specifically funneling their cancer-curing research through the Relay for Life, or specifically to American Cancer Society.
And why is that?
Yes,
the reason for that...
Because that's a big shift.
Right. The reason for that is because I did a lot of research on this recently. I had to, and I'll tell that story in a little bit, that they help fund human embryonic stem cell research. Now, pro-lifers there's some pro-lifers have been boycotting Relay for Life for a long time, a lot longer before even I knew what was, the American Cancer Society was doing. And there's some things that pro-lifers are concerned about that I'm maybe not equally as concerned about, some of the HPV vaccine stuff. ACS funded a small Planned Parenthood thing where they were supposed to be doing training for staff about not smoking. I don't really care as much about that.
Okay.
But I do know, for example, one of the places that money from the ACS goes to is to Dr. Steve Stice, who works at the UGA, at UGA in Athens, Georgia.
University of Georgia.
University of Georgia. I have met Dr. Steve Stice. I met him 7 or 8 years ago because he's a researcher and a scientist. They have a whole stem cell lab at UGA. He does human embryonic stem cell research as well as animal cloning. And one of his mini college lectures is titled "Why Embryonic Stem Cell Research is Morally Justified." Or justifiable. And I found that out, and I was like, I have to meet this guy, because that's the opposite of what my talk is called, and this is going to be interesting. And I called him up, and he was like, yeah, I'll meet with you. And we sat in his office for, an hour and a half or 2 hours and chatted. It was a great conversation and real open, and he explained to me a lot of things about kind of his perspectives on stem cell research and where the research is headed. He learned a little bit more about where I'm coming from, and we left there. It was a good conversation.
Right.
But I know he does human embryonic stem cell research because he told me he does. I mean, this is what they do. And this was back when there were a lot of they were separating the funding because President Bush had set up so you couldn't put new tax dollars into killing new embryos. And so one of the things that Stice was talking about was kind of complaining. We have to have like 2 separate labs and 2 separate sets of instruments and chart everything so that where we kill the embryos, we can show we didn't use new tax dollars for that, but we used private funds, and then we used tax dollars for this other stuff. And so he was talking about how they do that, which is what they're supposed to do.
And he gets funds from the American Cancer Society, who gets funds from Relay to Life.
Okay. That's right.
So you're making the claim that Relay for Life supports fairly directly the killing of human embryos.
Yeah, I don't think I would say Relay for Life supports anything. I would say money from Relay for Life at least usually goes to American Cancer Society, and they funnel that money to many places, one of which is to different labs that do human embryonic stem cell research, where they're actually killing embryos for research.
So you're saying that pro-life people shouldn't support?
I think they should at least think twice, and I myself am not going to support the ACS. If I'm going to put money into curing cancer, then I'm going to put it to, I have an alternative, which is the Van Andel Institute, which is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Their website is vai.org. They did, the guy in charge, Van Andel, did an interview where he actually talked about how he believes embryonic stem cell research is immoral, that we should not kill human beings for research, but we can do all kinds of other things, and they're focused on all of those things. And that would be a pro-life. There's many other cancer places that don't do embryonic stem cell research. I just haven't, usually they don't go on record about it, and so it's kind of hard finding the pro-life alternative, but this is certainly one of them, because he was actually, this is kind of a weird situation where he was so specific as to say, we don't do embryonic stem cell research, I think it's wrong.
Right, but the American Cancer Society is like the largest cancer research organization.
I don't even know if that's true, but it's certainly one of the big ones.
They're most well known, so you're right. I'm assuming they're the largest.
Yep, they're very big.
Aren't you concerned that if people are funneling money to, I mean, this is just something I know that people will talk about when you talk about organizations.
Right.
Isn't there some concern that if people start funneling to small organizations that there's not going to be a cure for cancer?
If all the money, if all the money suddenly went to Van Andel instead of ACS.
Well, no, it's just if you're splitting up into multiple. I mean, if you have a lot of money in one pot, they have the ability to do more extensive research or more thorough research. And if you split it up, I mean, just like with almost any type of nonprofit, if you split it up in lots of different fingers of it, then there's less productive.
Yeah, that's possible. I think that's possible. I think, I've been on Van Andel Institute's website, and it seems like they're doing really cool work and very important work that could, help with these things. And so I'm not sure that, I wouldn't say funding them is hurting the cause to cure cancer. I can see this idea. I mean, certainly there's a general principle, and we talk about this in elections. If you have, the two main parties, and then suddenly you have a third-party candidate, are they diverting votes away from one of the major? That becomes so I see kind of what you're saying, but I'm going to be probably okay with it if that means less money going to killing human beings.
Right. I think you've hit a key point. And regardless of what I say here, my position is very clear that killing embryonic stem cells is killing human beings and is wrong.
Yeah, just to clarify what you said, there's no such thing as killing human embryonic stem cells, but you mean killing human embryos for their stem cells, right?
Yes.
That's what you meant. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Everybody says human embryonic stem cell research, and it just blurs together.
Right. I understand.
But no, you're right. That's exactly what I mean. But, and it's kind of this line, where do you draw the line of responsibility that you have? It's
a great question.
The ever-present, do you give money directly to the homeless guy on the corner?
Right.
Is that a good thing because you're helping him, or is he just going to go buy beer with it?
Yeah.
How do we know if we give to the American Cancer Society, do we have a percentage? Do we know how much goes towards this? I mean, when we pay our taxes, we're paying to, now of course that's involuntary, but we're even more directly, I would think, supporting Planned Parenthood and embryonic stem cell research. So how do you balance that? Because I've seen boycott lists. Some organizations put out boycott lists.
Right.
And it's extremely long, the number of companies that choose Planned Parenthood or some other abortion affiliate.
Or even someone that they fund who might fund Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, you get, how many degrees of separation do you have to have if a company gives to, and I'm just, a company gives to Walmart, and Walmart gives to the Ronald McDonald House, and the Ronald McDonald House gives to some other organization that supports Planned Parenthood. Now, those people, I have no idea if those people do, but how many degrees of separation are you responsible for?
Yeah. I think those are all excellent questions. So let me respond with a few thoughts. On boycotts, I've said on the show before, I'm not a huge boycott guy. I don't have the entire, and you can get the boycott list, or at least the major one from Life Decisions International. On their website, you can purchase for about $20 their boycott list. And some people actually go through the grocery store with that list, making sure they don't buy one thing that would be helping to support Planned Parenthood. I'm not that guy. I don't have that.
Even just by your statement, though, you're saying you're basically boycotting Relay for Life by saying not doing that. So you're saying don't boycott, but boycott when I say it's okay?
No, I'm suggesting. I mean, maybe. I mean, it's possible you could make an argument that maybe I should be boycotting everybody. I haven't yet, and maybe that's just a convenience thing, and maybe I'm wrong about that. I do know, because I've spent time taking a look at American Cancer Society, that I'm really concerned about how they're funding human embryonic stem cell research, and after learning that, I don't want to go there. So as far as I would make a distinction between boycotts and taxes. I think with the taxes thing, we don't have a choice. We pay taxes.
I beg to differ there, because I know large sects of people that won't pay taxes for reasons such as that, or because of things government does.
And then the IRS comes knocking on your door.
Correct. But I'm just saying, I think it has a connection.
Okay, and I think I can make a bigger, better difference for the world if I pay those taxes and then publish 120 free hours of pro-life training audio and go do a bunch of speeches and talking to women that are interested in having abortions. I think then I've counterweighed whatever few bucks of my taxes have now gone to Planned Parenthood.
See, I'd be careful with that logic.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think that logic also destroys your argument that you shouldn't donate to the Relay for Life.
Because you don't know how much percentage is going towards embryonic.
Well, then donate to Planned Parenthood, because you don't know how much money is actually going to abortion.
You've gone slippery slope now. You've jumped to that.
No. I think both of you have some pretty good points. But when your point of making up for your tax dollars by doing good pro-life deeds,
not a good move to go.
can also be applied. The logic of it can also be applied to, I donate to cancer. That's a good deed. There might be a percent that goes here, so I'm going to do these other pro-life deeds. But I think the core issue is, how much do we know about what the Cancer Society donates to embryonic stem cell research? And we know some, for sure.
Right.
And now we
don't know
that
what the number is.
Yeah, we know that Planned Parenthood does a heck of a lot of abortions.
Right.
And that's almost their entire stance.
It's
and number one world provider. We go after them, and we try to do whatever we can to keep them, because that is directly going to stop abortions. And I'm with you.
Okay, but all I was saying, I think you're taking what I said farther than it was meant to go. All I'm saying is I don't think that I should take the boycott idea so far that I put myself in jail where I can't now do anything just because a couple of bucks might go to Planned Parenthood against my will.
But then my question
for
you is, how much of Relay for Life is going towards American Cancer Society, and how much of that is going
all of it is going towards the American Cancer
Society.
As
far as we know.
Okay.
Or that's their fundraiser.
It's a little bit, just in case people are wondering, so I heard one person say that there are some local Relay for Lives that might be able to choose themselves where the funding goes to. And if if that's the case, let's just say that's the case, I have no problem with participating in that Relay for Life.
But for all you know, they're doing exclusively for embryonic stem cell research.
I mean, I'm suggesting.
Look into it.
Here's what I'm saying. If Fresno has a Relay for Life and someone's interested in getting involved with it, and they look up and they talk to the person who's in charge of Fresno Relay for Life, say, I'm concerned about embryo stem cell research. They say, we're not sending our money up through ACS. We are specifically sending it straight to this Van Handel Institute. They're definitely not doing embryo stem cells. They're just trying to cure cancer without killing embryos. Get involved in that Relay for Life.
Okay.
However, I've heard from another guy who's had Relay for Life in his town for a long time, and they don't have any choice given to them. They have to send the money straight to ACS, and I've got no reason to think that's not the case everywhere else. It would be weird if it was the other way around.
I think one distinction that you were probably looking for earlier, taxes, I mentioned, are involuntary.
Right.
And if you're going to be a good citizen and do what you have to do, you got to pay taxes.
Right.
And, there's a lot of religious support for that, too. If you want to try to make a claim to get out of taxes and give to Washington what is Washington's.
Right. Give to Caesar what is Caesar.
Exactly.
Right.
But giving to an organization like Relay for Life is a voluntary deed.
Right.
So I do agree that people need to check out what charities they're giving to make sure that they're not funding things that they don't believe in.
Why should they check that out? Why should that even be a concern for them?
Well, you could be the idiot giver and give to something you don't believe in, but personally I think giving to something you don't believe in is kind of odd.
Right.
And
but some people do.
Counterproductive, and some people do. But I want to be as smart as I can with my dollars, and I haven't donated to Relay to Life. I've had concerns with that. I haven't donated with or participated in March of Dimes, and we've talked about some of the stuff that's kind of tainted
You can search prolifepodcast.net, search March of Dimes, we explained it there.
And that's kind of me personally.
Right.
But I eat Ben & Jerry's ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And there is they are on the boycott list. I know that at some point in time, I don't know how much or whatever, they've given money to Planned Parenthood.
Right.
And I know that tons of other foods and companies and stuff has. And I have drawn the line that I'm shopping in my grocery store.
Right.
These are lots of random companies looking for tax breaks. Maybe they give to Planned Parenthood, maybe they don't. Maybe they give here. They could be giving to all kinds of causes they don't believe in, but I'm not holding myself responsible for that.
Why aren't you then? Is it because of the percentage? Because
it's because I can't calculate. You can't calculate. I could be hiring someone to mow my lawn who is going to donate $300 to Planned Parenthood. And I have no idea. It's that idea of the guy sitting on the corner asking for money.
I agree with that.
If you really think, and he's obviously drunk, or he has the sign that says, "Look, I just want beer," that might be an indicator that you shouldn't give to that guy. But if you do give, my philosophy is, if you do give an actual dollar to a homeless person, you don't know what they're going to do with it. So I don't think you're responsible.
Okay, but do you think that you should say people should not give to that person?
No.
Or
but
can they be smarter by only giving them McDonald's $5 gift cards, where they will have to buy food with it?
That's what I was just going to say.
But then
you get smart with your money.
But then you get in the argument of McDonald's being unhealthy, and you're actually
okay.
Harm.
But how about this? My argument.
Saying.
That's just a smaller problem.
I'm just saying.
My argument with the whole homeless debate: do you give them cash? Do you not? Okay, I like to carry granola bars and water bottles in my car, and I'm not very good at, but I know that my husband's very good at knowing the names of shelters and organizations who can help or who have things on demand. Those might be better ways than just giving $1. So I really like what you've done, Josh, in looking for where can you donate to cancer research, because cancer research is good.
Right. Let me go back to the lawnmower thing, because that's basically what I've said before too. You cannot control, if you hire a plumber, you don't know where that money's going to go. Let me ask you this: if the lawnmower guy comes up to your door, we just recently moved into a little house, so we've gotten all kinds of people saying they want us to hire them to do our horrible lack of a yard.
That's why they're knocking at your door.
What if the yard guy knocks on your door and says, "Just so you know, I am an avid Planned Parenthood supporter, and half of everything you give me will go straight to Planned Parenthood. Just want to let you know up front." Will you hire him?
I will say, why don't you come on in, have a glass of lemonade and a muffin,
Let's just say you can't change his mind. Let's just say you can't change his mind.
No.
I think that the difference here, you know up front.
I won't hire him.
Why?
Because I don't believe in what he's going to do with that money. And he's
that's
told
that's
me
the
up
difference.
front.
My question for you.
Yes.
What if he somehow, like, he has a bumper sticker or something like that, like an Obama bumper sticker?
Mm-hmm.
You assume that he's... Or maybe even like he has somebody he's saying he's given to it, because now we're chopping up into sections of how much he might actually be giving. Okay, like directly, if he's saying he's giving all of it to it, okay, we understand that Relay for Life is giving all of their funds to American Cancer Society, but how much of that is affecting embryonic stem cell research.
Right. That's
I think is what the issue is.
Well, I know Dr. Steve Stice is a very reputable stem cell guy. He's doing a lot of work. Has done a lot of major work in embryonic stem cell research. It's significant stuff that he's done, both with embryo stem cell research and animal cloning. But there's no way for me to know, at least based on what I've been able to find so far, exactly how many dollars has gone to him. But I believe it's got to be significant. We're not just talking about $1,000 here. We're talking about it's on their website listed as a grant. It's a lot of money going to killing human embryos.
Right.
And so it seems like that's about it. Now, I think you asked a really good question earlier, talking about what about degrees. At some point, it seems like it's not your responsibility anymore. I think right now there's an example of that, but we can't get into it too much because I want to do it in a future show after I've been able to research it some more. But right now, people are talking about boycotting Pepsi. Because Pepsi is using cells from, it's called an HEK line, which means human embryonic kidney cells. It's really not embryonic stem cells. It's adult stem cells, but were taken from an aborted fetus a long time ago, 20, 30 years ago, and those cells are being used even right now in testing new Pepsi products. Now, there is a debate that has happened. I haven't yet read it. I just know it's happened. Here's the debate that's happened.
Really
I know this seems
gross
weird.
concept. I have no idea how it works.
Doesn't mean human cells are in your Pepsi products. It's like, and when they've tested new products, it has to do with tasting
See, I don't understand.
It's weird.
How do they
this is why I don't want to get into it because I can't explain it well.
Okay, we'll save
Smarter
it for
people than me have
episode.
already written articles on this. Okay, but there was a debate, and some Catholic theologians said because of it's one baby that was killed 20, 30 years ago, and now those cells, because they're perpetual, like they've stayed healthy and have been able to be used in all these different things. It's being used in research all over the country for all kind of different products. You don't even know what's in them. We know they're in Pepsi stuff, or Pepsi's used them, but we don't know all the other places. And some people are suggesting at some point it gets far enough away, and if there's no other alternatives, that's not the case with Pepsi, but if there's some other case where you start talking about vaccines, if you think vaccines are a good thing for your kid, you probably can't find enough vaccines, in theory, that don't at some point have to do with so there's a debate that can be had there about how much like using aborted fetal tissue in the research. Some vaccines come from that same stem cell line, I've heard, or similar stem cell lines, or not stem cell lines, human aborted fetal tissue lines. And so there becomes a debate: do you ever use those vaccines? Well, what if not using that vaccine can hurt your kid? That kind of thing.
Okay, but what sickens me about this is that it's rampant through society.
Right.
And embryonic stem cell research is becoming the norm and accepted and used, and that's what we should be really focusing on stopping now. And I think I'm going to say that this is more of a conscious issue because like for me, I'm not going to donate directly to Relay for Life because there's a chance that my dollars are going to go to killing human beings, and that's something that I can't handle. Now, I can understand if Andrew wants to donate to them because there's not really any way of knowing if your money's going to go to that.
Sure.
We don't know if they're going to keep donating in the future. It doesn't seem to be a big part of what they're spending stuff on.
Right.
So I'm not going to say like blanketly it is wrong to give, and I hate to be so gray. You know me, I'm a black and white person.
I'm not going to get into a fight with Andrew over this. If he decides to donate to ACS, we're just going to personally. And I have friends who have done Relay for Life stuff, and then they read my article, basically saying what I'm talking about here, and we're still fine. We're like, oh, okay, that's cool. You know?
Well, and maybe if people involved in the organization make a stir, you know, I don't think me as one individual, like shopping in the grocery store, if I stop buying Ben & Jerry's, they're not going to stop donating to Planned Parenthood. But if an executive or someone who's high up volunteering for them makes a stink and says, look, you're doing this, and if you keep doing it, I may have to leave your organization, that might actually change something.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I imagine, like, because I think one of the problems that happens is I don't think a lot of times even pro-life people take embryonic stem cell research seriously enough. Right. So trot out a unwanted human. Here would be my unwanted human. Imagine that you're at this charity ball in Germany in 1941. It's for trying to cure hypothermia. You're there, and it's like, oh, gee, hypothermia is a really big problem. It gets really cold in the winter, so we want to, I've got family members that have been affected by hypothermia. This is a good thing. And then you find out that some of the money, not all of it, but some of the money, you don't know how much, but some of the money is going to get sent to Dr. Roscher. Dr. Roscher was a Nazi doctor at Auschwitz who was doing horrible, unethical to even begin to say, treatments on Jews to try to cure hypothermia. He would stick them in freezing water for as long as they could go and find out what are the best ways to warm them up. The idea was, the Nazi soldiers that were in, on the Eastern Front were dealing with a lot of cold winters. And so how do we do this? And so there were at least 100 Jews were killed in these experiments. If you find out that at least some of the money is going to go to Dr. Roscher's research, are you still going to donate? Probably not. Right. And I think because maybe on its face we would take that more seriously than embryonic stem cell research. Now, the only place that analogy is not fair is that the Jews were being tortured. They were actually suffering from these experiments. I'm not convinced human embryos suffer when they're killed from stem cell research.
But they're still killed.
Right. We don't know. Some people would say they would, but I don't see it.
And it's more than 100.
Right.
Correct. Exactly.
It's more than 100.
Right.
It's way more. And we don't even know how many, and I don't know how vast. And frankly, we don't spend enough time talking about embryonic stem cell research.
I think that's true.
We talk much more about abortion because it's more common, because it's more winnable at this point.
Well, it's more emotional. It's an easier connection to make.
You can show the picture of the baby's hands.
Right.
That's an incredible advantage on our side. But frankly, even if we win the abortion battle, we have a huge battle earlier in life to conquer.
Yeah, and in the end, the most important point is if the embryo is human, like the Jew being tortured. It wasn't in Auschwitz, it was in Dachau, where Dr. Roscher specifically was doing those experiments. If the embryo are human too, then that's the most important point. Then it is wrong to kill them for research.
But what we're talking about now is what is the best way to go about saving the embryos that are being harmed.
Yeah.
And frankly, we can't go through our grocery store and, is it going to make a difference if we go through a grocery store in every single place that we know of that gives, it's so interconnected and intertwined with our culture.
And I think a big part of it is, okay, you not buying Ben & Jerry's is not going to relay a message to Ben & Jerry.
But if you get a bunch of people together and all sign letters sending to Ben & Jerry's and say, we are all not buying your products because of whatever, that has made a difference in the past.
But her not buying that is not making a huge impact.
Right.
I'm not convinced that not giving to Relay for Life is sending a message. I think it does. While like you said, you would not donate to them. That's fine. But not doing that, I don't think, is necessarily doing anything.
But see, I wrote an article that has been shared on Facebook over 2,000 times and tweeted over 50 times, and got other pro-choice people responding. And of course, I got called pro-cancer and all kinds of other things. I wrote a response, so you can read all that on our website. That can make a difference. People at Relay for Life were probably talking about Josh Brahm's article. People can get together and share these things and post them and send letters and say, this is why I'm not supporting it.
If we're going to send out a plea to our listeners, try to learn about where you donate your money.
Yep.
If you find out that an organization is donated somewhere you don't want, find out how to get in touch with them. Write letters, organize people, and a little at a time. And I think that'll summarize a little bit more. Attack the full issue instead of and focus on the one thing that's wrong, not just...
And this can also create great conversations. When your friend comes to you and says, will you support me in the Relay for Life, you can say, I've got a problem with embryo stem cell research, that's why I can't do it. And they say, well, that's different. The embryos aren't human.
That's the issue.
Is the start of a great conversation. We're out. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week.
You've been watching Life Report, pro-life talk, real-world answers. Life Report is produced by Right to Life of Central California. Visit their website at fresnoprolife.org.